The Department of Education presents the Preschool Reporting Requirements webinar. This webinar may be helpful for any new or continuing district designee who will be responsible for completing preschool reporting. Jennifer Adkins, an early childhood consultant at the Department of Education, is conducting this webinar. The objectives of this webinar will be to review the purpose for preschool reporting, describe steps for completing session ID information in the preschool desk audit, and to review other data collection for preschool and associated timelines. Several web-based data collections enhance the Department of Education's ability to track results of preschool programs in school districts and local partnering preschool programs. The collection of data provides information about compliance with the requirements of Iowa Code 256C, Iowa Administrative Code 28116, and Early Childhood Special Education. Data systems include the Preschool Desk Audit, Student Reporting in Iowa, the School Information Update, and Fall Bed Staff. Examples of information submitted across these data systems include program standards being followed, teacher licensure, site information, and hours children participate in the program weekly. Now, a detailed description of session ID information in the Preschool Desk Audit will be provided. The Preschool Desk Audit is comprised of two parts. The session ID information provided by districts in the Preschool Desk Audit will assist the Department of Education in collecting the program standards being followed in each classroom. Districts will provide basic monitoring information for classrooms following NAEYC or Head Start program performance standards. The second part of the Preschool Desk Audit is specifically for monitoring of the IQPPS. As a whole, the Preschool Desk Audit will be the universal desk audit for the preschool grade level to ensure compliance with program requirements. Gathering programming data contributes to the monitoring and implementation of a quality preschool program, resulting in positive outcomes for children. All districts will be reporting session ID information in the Preschool Desk Audit. This will be the method of obtaining session IDs needed to complete student reporting in Iowa. Session ID information will be open in the Preschool Desk Audit approximately August 1 and will close September 15. Due to the impact of COVID-19, the procedures for the 2020-21 Preschool Desk Audit IQPPS evidence portion have been adjusted. The 2021 Preschool Desk Audit IQPPS evidence will open in September. Districts will submit additional IQPPS evidence by December 15, 2020 if their items were ported forward from the 1920 Preschool Desk Audit. No new items will be added to the 2021 Desk Audit. If all items were met during the 1920 Desk Audit, there will be no items to port forward and no action will be required. Based on the session information provided in the Preschool Desk Audit, unique session ID numbers for preschool sessions in the school district and community partners will be generated. The session ID numbers will be for numerals in length. Session IDs change annually. In other words, session IDs are not recycled from year to year. The session ID numbers will be required to complete student reporting in Iowa. Thus, you will need to complete session ID information in the Preschool Desk Audit prior to submitting data in student reporting in Iowa. Session IDs are generated in the Preschool Desk Audit for each preschool session. What is a session? A session is a teacher and a group of children within a given time period. A different group of children during a different time is a new session. Within session ID information in the Preschool Desk Audit, school districts must report all sessions that include children receiving statewide voluntary preschool programming, including sessions in community partner sites. School districts must also report all segregated early childhood special education classrooms, even if the district is not receiving statewide voluntary preschool program funding. In addition, all sessions serving one or more students with an IEP for special education instructional services through a district building or community-based program must also be reported. This includes 3-year-old only sessions that include children with IEPs. Shared Vision's preschool programs implementing IQPPS should also be reported within session ID information. The Iowa Education Portal houses CASA, the system in which the Preschool Desk Audit is accessed. Local designees for completing the Preschool Desk Audit will need to access CASA. Note that superintendents, including those who are new, have access to CASA without request. All other potential CASA users must generate a request to access CASA. If the local designee for completing the preschool desk audit formerly had access to CASA in order to complete the K-12 desk audit, a new request to have access to CASA is not needed. Once you are logged in to your A&A account, the next page will appear with tabs at the top. Click on CASA. If CASA does not appear as one of the tabs at the top, you do not have access to CASA and will need to either A, identify who does have access to ensure completion of the preschool desk audit, or B, follow the process to gain access to CASA. Ensure someone in the district is identified before fall who has access to CASA and can complete the preschool desk audit. A link to the CASA webpage is included at the end of this slide deck. The CASA webpage includes a document with instructions for accessing CASA. All requests for access to CASA go to the Department of Education. Users requesting access to CASA must wait for the Department of Education to verify the requests for access with the district's portal security officer before access is granted by the Department of Education. In the dashboard view, the district should be able to see the due date for each protocol and the days remaining as a visual reminder. Only click No within the introduction if the district does not offer any statewide voluntary preschool program and the district does not have any preschool age students with an individualized education program. The actions needed in order to complete session information in the preschool desk audit include more detail about these actions will be provided in the following slides. Prior to the fall, districts will want to prepare for providing session ID information in the preschool desk audit by organizing session information by the program standard being followed across all sites. Session information copied over from the previous year will be organized by program standard. If program standards have changed for any session copied over from the previous year, new sessions will need to be created under the appropriate or new program standard. Ensure the session information copied from the previous year represents all sessions that will be in operation based on the guidance for sessions which must be reported, and be prepared to create new sessions as needed. If a classroom is following more than one set of program standards, including IQPPS, report the session under NAEYC or Head Start Program Performance Standards as appropriate instead of IQPPS. This may require new sessions to be created and others deleted. If any session that was copied over from the previous year will be inactive or no longer exists, it should be deleted by clicking on the red X in the upper right-hand corner. Once a session is deleted, it will not be recoverable. If any sessions that will be active for the current year do not appear in CASA or new locations have been added for the current year, these sessions will need to be created using the Add New Session button based on the program standard that will be followed for each session created. If program standards have changed for any session copied over from the previous year, new sessions will need to be created under the appropriate new program standard, and the session under the previous program standard should be deleted. Again, if more than one standard is being followed by a session, report that session under Head Start Program Performance Standards or NAEYC rather than IQPPS, which may also require new sessions to be created and others deleted. Session names that are copied from the previous year may be edited in order to address session naming conventions. Review session names and make edits to align with session naming conventions. The session naming conventions are also included in the Preschool Desk Audit Session Information Instructions, which are posted to the Differentiated Accountability webpage. Upon clicking on the radio button to acknowledge the sessions to report and the actions needed to complete session ID information in the Preschool Desk Audit, this will be the approximate screen view. The amount and type of information required to be entered for each session will vary based on the program standards being followed. The following slides will provide detail about the fields required for each set of program standards being followed. A district may change the program standards being followed if necessary. Contact Jennifer Adkins the prior spring if your district will change from all sessions following NAEYC and/or Head Start Program Performance Standards to any following IQPPS for the upcoming school year. When program standards are changed, session information copied from the previous year in the Preschool Desk Audit will still reflect the previously reported program standard. If more than one program standard is being followed by a session, report that session under Head Start Program Performance Standards or NAEYC rather than IQPPS. Sessions that do not accurately reflect the program standard being followed at the time of the current review of the session ID information will need to be deleted, and a new session or sessions created under the new program standard so that session ID information reflects the program standard being followed this fall. To begin reviewing and entering session information, click anywhere on the blue bars for NAEYC, Head Start Program Performance Standards, or IQPPS. This is an approximation of the view for entering information for each session following NAEYC. All fields are required. Information required to be entered for NAEYC includes building, session name, teacher name, yes, no for teacher assistant, expiration date, and program accreditation ID. Once an application has been submitted to NAEYC, a program identification number and expiration date will be provided so that this information should be available to even locations new to the NAEYC accreditation process. Programs that have been in operation for the past year or more should readily be able to complete these fields. If needed, reference the building's NAEYC accreditation certificate or the notification letter which contains the NAEYC accreditation decision report for this information. First, select the building in which this session is located from the drop-down menu. If the building in which this session is located does not appear in the drop-down list, select the option that indicates the site for the session in question is not listed. All school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations should be located in this drop-down list. If one is missing, the school information update should be promptly updated by the district to ensure all school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations are included in the school information update and are assigned a unique building identification number. Second, enter the session name using the session naming conventions described earlier. Third, respond yes, no based on whether a teacher assistant is assigned to the classroom in order to address requirements for ratio. Note, the response should only be no if there are 10 or fewer children in the classroom. Fourth, enter the lead teacher's legal name. The name should match other systems such as fall bed staff and the Board of Educational Examiners. Fifth, enter the expiration date, which should be the date this location's NAEYC accreditation expires. A calendar function will aid in entering the date. Sixth, enter the NAEYC program accreditation ID number in the text box. This should be 5 to 6 numerals in length. Seventh, and finally, this completes the data entry for a single session following NAEYC. Information will auto-save. Note that a session number will populate in the upper right-hand corner for each session after clicking the Submit button. This is the session number required for student reporting in Iowa. Session numbers should be 4 numerals in length. To add sessions as needed, click on the Add New Session button in the lower right-hand corner. Delete any NAEYC sessions that are inactive by clicking on the red X in the upper right-hand corner, and repeat these steps for each session following NAEYC. This is an approximation of the view for entering information for each session following Head Start Program Performance Standards. All fields are required. Information required to be entered for Head Start Program Performance Standards includes building, session name, teacher name, yes, no for teacher assistant, local monitoring date, federal monitoring date, and written agreement date. Districts with new programs may not have answers to these questions immediately. However, districts should have a written agreement in place specifying agency responsibilities related to monitoring of these program standards. For new programs, once dates for local and federal monitoring are determined, the district should enter these dates. Programs that have been in operation during the past year or more should readily be able to complete these fields. If needed, contact the local Head Start grantee for this information. First, select the building in which the session is located from the drop-down menu. If the building in which the session is located does not appear in the drop-down list, select the option that indicates the site for the session in question is not listed. All school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations should be located in the drop-down list. If one is missing, the school information update should be promptly updated by the district to ensure all school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations are included in the school information update and are assigned a unique building identification number. Second, enter the session name using the session naming conventions provided earlier. Third, enter the lead teacher's legal name. The name should match other systems such as fall bed staff and the Board of Educational Examiners. Fourth, respond yes, no based on whether a teacher assistant is assigned to this classroom in order to address requirements for ratio, and note that the response should only be no if there are 10 or fewer children in the classroom. Fifth, enter a local monitoring date, which would be the date the local Head Start agency last monitored this session. A calendar function will aid in entering the date. Monitoring by the local Head Start grantee should occur annually at minimum. Sixth, enter a federal monitoring date, which would be the date of the most recent federal Head Start monitoring visit. A calendar function will aid in entering the date. The date of the federal monitoring visit can be determined by asking the local Head Start grantee when it occurred. The federal monitoring visit looks at the overall Head Start grantee's program and may or may not include a visit to each classroom. Seventh, enter a written agreement date, which would be the last date of review for the written agreement between the district and the local Head Start agency which addresses monitoring. The written agreement should be reviewed, updated, and signed annually. A calendar function will aid in entering the date. This completes data entry for a single session following Head Start program performance standards. Information will auto-save. Notice that the session number will populate in the upper right-hand corner for each session after clicking on the Submit button. This is the session number required for student reporting in Iowa. Session numbers should be for numerals in length. To add sessions as needed, click on the Add New Session button in the lower right-hand corner. Delete any Head Start program performance sessions that are inactive by clicking on the red X in the upper right-hand corner. Repeat these steps for each session following Head Start program performance standards. This is an approximation of the view for entering information for each session following the Iowa Quality Preschool Program Standards. Information required to be entered for IQPPS includes building, session name, teacher name, and yes/no for teacher assistant. First, select the building which this session is located from the drop-down menu. If the building in which this session is located does not appear in the drop-down list, select the option that indicates the site for the session in question is not listed. All school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations should be located in this drop-down list. If one is missing, the school information update should be promptly updated by the district to ensure all school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations are included in the school information update and are assigned a unique building identification number. Second, enter the session name using the session naming conventions provided earlier. Third, enter the lead teacher's legal name. The name should match other systems such as Fall Bed staff and the Board of Educational Examiners. Fourth, respond yes/no based on whether a teacher assistant is assigned to this classroom in order to address requirements for ratio, and note that the response should only be no if there are 10 or fewer children in the classroom. This completes data entry for a single session following IQPPS. Information will auto-save. Notice that the session number will populate in the upper right-hand corner for each session after clicking the Submit button. This is the session number required for student reporting in Iowa. Session numbers should be 4 numerals in length. To add sessions as needed, click on the Add New Session button in the lower right-hand corner. Delete any IQPPS sessions that are inactive by clicking on the red X in the upper right-hand corner. Repeat these steps for each session following IQPPS. Ensure that all session information has been reviewed and/or entered so that all session information is complete and accurate. Note that submission is final and cannot be undone. To submit, click Submit at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen as shown in the screen view approximation. If a Submit button does not occur, the user does not have Submit level access. The person who completes data entry should work with the person granted Submit level access in the district to ensure session ID information is submitted. A troubleshooting note: if a user has Submit level access and is not able to submit successfully, check all session information to ensure all fields are complete, accurate, and appropriate based on preschool desk audit instructions. Data validations apply, and if complete, accurate, and appropriate information is not entered, this will be a barrier to submission. Session information, including session numbers, will be available for viewing and export after session ID information within the preschool desk audit is submitted by the district. Session ID information may be exported as a list for each program standard. If more than one program standard is followed across the district and its community partners, the district will need to export the lists of sessions under each program standard separately and combine them into a single list for efficient reference. To export the information, go to the Preschool Desk Audit tile for session ID information and click on Data Entry. Click on the Export Data button to create and download a list of session information, including session numbers for each program standard. The file will be in Excel format. This can be used as a method for quickly referencing session numbers generated after submission of session ID information to prepare for student reporting in Iowa. This will be easier than scrolling through all sessions and writing down session numbers after they are generated. Instructions for exporting session information. Session IDs are included in Preschool Desk Audit Information Instructions, which are available on the Differentiated Accountability webpage. The LEA dashboard is useful to track progress before and after session ID information is submitted by the district. The preschool desk audit tile for session ID information will show a statement to indicate the status of progress. For example, the status of may show as in progress, complete but awaiting submission by the district, waiting on review by the Department of Education after district submission, or state review complete. The screen view here shows how the status of session ID information in the preschool desk audit will appear before the district begins reviewing and editing session ID information. Assurances in CASA also require response by all districts by September 15th. Assurances require response by the district superintendent and will only appear in CASA for district superintendents. A single list of assurances in CASA includes all assurances for preschool to 12th grade. As previewed on this slide, for superintendents, assurances will appear as a tile separate from desk audits and other protocols. All assurances require response by September 15. Statewide voluntary preschool program assurances will appear in the list of assurances for districts that are part of the statewide voluntary preschool program. Statewide voluntary preschool program assurances will not appear in the list of assurances for districts which are not part of the statewide voluntary preschool program. Statewide voluntary preschool program assurances must be addressed by all districts implementing the statewide voluntary preschool program as stipulated in Iowa Code 256C. For more detail about the statewide voluntary preschool program assurances, see also the Meeting Program Assurances and Requirements webinar, which is posted to the statewide voluntary preschool program webpage. Each assurance requires a yes/no answer. Corrective action is required for any no answer. A district must address any corrective actions immediately using the corrective action log in CASA. For every yes answer, the district is certifying that each statewide voluntary preschool program session within the district and its community partners continuously meets the assurance. If any part of the desk audit or assurances results in need for correction, the superintendent will be notified via a feature in the CASA system called the corrective action log. The corrective action log will include anything the district or school needs to correct for grades preschool to grade 12. For preschool, this may pertain to unmet assurances or unmet Iowa Quality Preschool Program standards criteria based on submission of IQPPS evidence. The superintendent may handle corrective actions or assign them to a member of the district staff. To navigate to the corrective actions area, use the link located on the left-hand side of the main menu as shown in this screen view. Once the district submits any needed correction as complete, a school improvement consultant at the Department of Education will receive notification via email. Locations in which district-sponsored preschool is offered, including community partners, are also expected to be included and updated as needed in the school information update. This application is located in the Iowa Education Portal under EdInfo. Additions or changes to building information in the school information update should be made as soon as possible. Ensure that all school buildings and statewide voluntary preschool program community partner locations are included in the school information update. The school information update expedites transfer of information to other reporting systems, including the preschool desk audit, student reporting in Iowa, and fall bed staff. In the school information update, update the grade level and physical address information for each building and add information for new buildings or new partners as needed. Enter information for new buildings or community partners in the school information update to generate a unique building identification number for these locations. For further assistance with changes to the school information update, contact Margaret Hansen at the Department of Education, and contact information for her is included in the resources slides. The Certified Enrollment Report through Student Reporting in Iowa provides subsequent year funding. Enrollment count is generated from each preschooler's enrollment status as of October 1. Each district enters data separately, so the count is reported by district. Eligible statewide voluntary preschool program students' enrollment count generates subsequent year funding. Certified enrollment must be certified by October 15. Districts will include their preschool students in their snapshot for SRI in the fall. Each statewide voluntary preschool program participant and children with instructional IEPs must be entered into the district's student information system. All preschoolers and community partner offsite statewide voluntary preschool program sessions also must be entered into the district's student information system. In addition to children in the statewide voluntary preschool program and children with IEPs for special education instructional services, the Department of Education is requesting that districts report all children in early childhood programs funded through sources such as Head Start, Early Childhood Iowa, Shared Visions, and Parent Tuition. The Department of Education will combine data reported in SRI and the preschool desk audit to report the total numbers of children ages 3 to 5 as well as the program standards implemented by districts. Which data elements are required? For each child and student reporting in Iowa, identified the program type in which the child participates. Preschool program type of 3 for a statewide voluntary preschool program classroom. Preschool program type 4 for preschool, which is not a statewide voluntary preschool program classroom, or preschool program type 5 for early childhood special education classrooms, in which at least 51% of the children participating have IEPs. If at least one student in a given session is coded as preschool program type 3, statewide voluntary preschool program classroom, all students in that session should be coded as preschool program type 3. New data validations will support consistent, accurate data reporting related to this. For all children in the statewide voluntary preschool program and any preschool child with an IEP for special education instructional services, the preschool session ID and the number of hours per week must be entered in the student information system. All the data elements that are collected for K-12 are collected for preschool. This includes PK funded by the funding source, free and reduced lunch information even if the children will not receive meals. All other data elements such as ethnicity and attendance are collected. Data for potential English language learner in preschool will continue to be collected. This does not require a district to conduct a screening instrument, but the administration of a home language survey is a requirement under federal civil rights law for all preschool children enrolled in preschool programs under the authority of the Iowa Department of Education. For further assistance with student reporting in Iowa, contact Margaret Hanson or Rachel Cruz. Only statewide voluntary preschool program eligible children can be counted to generate statewide voluntary preschool program funding. Statewide voluntary preschool program eligible children must be 4 years old on or before September 15 of the school year and residents of Iowa. The ages of children will be determined by their birth date. Statewide voluntary preschool program participants eligible for generating the .5 funding must have PK funded by statewide voluntary preschool program set to 1 or yes, and have preschool program hours as equal to or greater than 10 entered into the student information system. Districts cannot count children on an instructional services IEP to generate the .5 statewide voluntary preschool program funding. However, 4-year-old children on support services IEPs may be counted to generate the .5 statewide voluntary funding. A support services IEP is one that includes support services only, such as occupational, speech, or physical therapy. Statewide voluntary preschool program participants who are on an instructional services IEP will have PK funded by statewide set to no. Children on an instructional services IEP are included in the district's 1.0 count and also generate the special education weighting associated with their identified level. In order to generate funding for children who are on an early childhood instructional services IEP, enter the IEP placement date and IEP level for each child. Children who are younger or older than 4 years old and participating in a statewide voluntary preschool program classroom will not generate this .5 statewide voluntary preschool program funding. Children who are 5 on or before September 15 may generate 1.0 funding as kindergartners only if they receive programming aligned with Iowa academic standards that is equal to the amount of time that is specified in the school board policy for kindergarten children. They must be in programming that is in a district building to be counted this way. Children who are 5 years old on an instructional services IEP will follow the IEP team determination for grade level. Assessment requirements for 5-year-olds who generate 1.0 funding are the same regardless of the range of types of kindergarten programming available within the district. Remember that the statewide voluntary preschool program funding is categorical funding and should only be used for costs for children participating based on statewide voluntary preschool program funds. At this time, we can predict that funding will be based on half of the state cost per pupil for all statewide voluntary preschool programs students enrolled and counted on October 1. The funding is paid each month with the state aid payment approximately the 15th of the month, September through June. Monies from a flexibility account may be used for startup costs if approved by board resolution following a public hearing. Use for general support of the statewide voluntary preschool program is also an allowed use. Related wording in Iowa Code 298A may be referenced in this slide deck. All teachers for district-sponsored preschool, including community partner teachers, are expected to be reported in fall bed staff. The general time frame listed on this slide is subject to adjustment. Reference the fall bed staff webpage for updates. Within the general time frame for fall bed staff, information for all statewide voluntary preschool program and early childhood special education teachers, including community partners and teacher assistants, is requested to be entered by October 1. For further assistance, contact Shelley Neese at the Department of Education, and her contact information is included in the resources slides. The following slides will provide helpful resources to assist the district in addressing the preschool reporting requirements. Districts are encouraged to download and use the preschool desk audit instructions for session ID information, which is required for all school districts. Much of the details included within this webinar is also within the preschool desk audit instructions for session ID information. These instructions may be downloaded from the Differentiated Accountability webpage. Instructions for IQPPS evidence are posted separately on the Differentiated Accountability webpage. IQPPS evidence is required for school districts that report implementation of IQPPS at any building, including community partners. Exceptions were noted previously for the current year. Questions about session ID information for the preschool desk audit may be directed to Jennifer Adkins or Tim Glenn. General questions about IQPPS evidence in the preschool desk audit should be directed to Jennifer Adkins. As mentioned earlier, the contacts for the school information update, fall bed staff, and student reporting in Iowa are provided here. Web pages that have been referenced during this webinar include other helpful resources specific to the topic of each web page. Appropriate contacts are included on each of the web pages. Thank you for listening to this webinar regarding preschool reporting requirements.